So I've been trying to stay neutral on this, but seeing how hello fellow mutants, welcome back to another video. But seeing how Marvel didn't get hadn't give Sony any money that Marvel to have Spider-Man in the MCU movies, but Sony is being nice enough to before give Marvel 5% of the earnings of opening weekends. I feel like that it was selfish of Marvel to ask for a raise to 50% if they're not prepared to give Sony a cut of the opening weekend gross with any movie that has Spider-Man in it. But like I said, welcome to another video. This is Phil. Please consider subscribing. And today we're going to talk more about the whole Spider-Man thing. And since I am still excited that we're going to see Spider-Man in the MCU, I've heard that now, besides getting 5% of the cuts of the standalone Spider-Man movies at the moment, Sony is giving Marvel 25% of the cuts of the Spider-Man movies, like the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. So, for opening weekend. So, at the moment, I've heard that Tom Holland is gonna be in Spider-Man 3 or Homecoming 3. I'm going to keep saying Homecoming 3 until we get an actual title for this person, Spider-Man 3. So, we're going to get Tom Holland in Spider-Man Homecoming 3, and him in one more MCU movie. I don't know what. It could be like a Captain Marvel sequel, or it could be Avengers 4. I don't know. But all I do know, like I said in the last video, is that Spider-Man Homecoming 3 is coming out in July of 2021, in 2 years. And I always been a huge fan of Spider-Man. I mean, if this deal didn't happen, or I shouldn't say deal, if Sony and Marvel did not make up to a certain extent, and just left the big suspense moment of the end of Far From Home, how it was. Now, Homecoming 3 being the one that is not connected to the MCU, then Sony, I would have faith in Sony that they could pull off something. But it would be a really difficult thing for Sony to please the fans in. Especially since Far From Home had scenes after the credits where it had Nick Fury in it, but then in Spider-Man Homecoming 3, there not being any Nick Fury or whatnot, and I can kind of see some fans that isn't too familiar with the whole Spider-Man movie rights owned by Sony thing upset, and that's where I'm coming from. But yeah, golly, my camera. But now that in this video, I'm not really going to talk much more of the whole Spider-Man gonna be into, gonna have Homecoming 3 be connected to the MCU, and him being another MCU movie, per se. I'm going to talk about how this essentially helps Homecoming 3. Because, if you guys remember, spoilers if you haven't seen Far From Home, especially the scenes after the credits. The first scene after the credits, if if I remember correctly, because there's two. The first one had Peter Parker's or Spider-Man's identity to be revealed. We had Mysterio revealing Peter Parker's identity, and the world now knows who Spider-Man is. At first, in Spider-Man 3, now he has to, unless if he's gonna have his like own mini series to bridge the gap between Far From Home and Homecoming 3, that Spider-Man's gonna get some backlash. Because Mysterio did play it off as if Spider-Man did kill him. And to be honest, I'm hoping we'll see Spider-Man kind of getting some backlash of people thinking that he actually killed Mysterio. Because that's the one thing that I wish that we saw in Far From Home. That we didn't see May's reaction to finding out that her nephew's been Spider-Man. I mean, we saw her, she was surprised at the end of Homecoming, but we didn't really see that struggle in May accepting that her nephew is risking his own life to save other people. I would have loved to see that, struggle within Aunt May. And maybe we can see that in Spider-Man Homecoming 3. Hopefully. Because that would be a nice avenue to explore. And maybe by midway through, Aunt May understanding why Peter kept it a secret more. I mean, I bet she already understood. And I bet they had a talk off screen. It just would be awesome to see that conversation take place on screen. And I guess that can be a new flavor to Peter Parker's story arc, dealing with that while Peter Parker's identity, Spider-Man's identity exposed. I mean, the two can match up pretty well, but Spider-Man has to deal with having the world know who he is now. And Aunt May is now more scared than ever, and maybe her feelings that she's been suppressing has finally emerged, and we see Peter and Aunt May get at it in one point, but then in that conversation, we see those two, as the saying goes, kiss and make up. I don't know, but this being able to have Spider-Man in a part of the MCU again, still, I mean, it's really awesome, and it will help the story for Homecoming 3 even more. And in my opinion, because if Homecoming 3 wasn't part of the MCU, then I can see Sony running into potential issues. And maybe Sony saw that, and that maybe that's why they decided to try to talk things out with Marvel, at least part of the reason. I don't know. But I'm just excited to see Spider-Man be in the MCU, and maybe this movie have him becoming his own hero, because the first one we saw of him in was him practically being Tony Stark's apprentice. Far From Home was him trying to struggle between becoming the next Iron Man, or and becoming his own hero. So now that we kind of established that Spider-Man can be his own hero, and how pretty much he dealt with Mysterio, maybe in Homecoming 3, maybe we could see Spider-Man, this version Spider-Man, finally crawl out of his shell, no pun intended, to becoming his own hero. And then maybe in the next MCU movie, see this new take on Spider-Man per se, with still Tom Holland, the more mature Spider-Man teaming up with the Avengers. Not that I'm saying that he was immature now, but you know what I mean. More mature in like character development and stuff like that. That growth, personal growth. And who knows if how many movies Spider-Man will be in terms of being part of the MCU. Cause I remember making a video where I've heard, and this was like 3.5, maybe 4 years ago, when Spider-Man was first announced to be in the MCU, first movie as Captain America: Civil War. I remember saying that no, it was like 3 years ago because I had a YouTube channel for 3 years. That their deal, Marvel's and Sony's deal for Spider-Man, says he's going to be in 5 movies connected to the MCU. 2 movies just of his own, 3 movies being part of the MCU, which we got 2 movies of his own, Far From Home and Homecoming. We got 3 movies that's connected to the MCU that has Spider-Man in it. Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame. So now, did they do pretty much the same deal? Have 5 more movies, or did they shorten it to like 2 or 3 movies? I don't know. All I know is that he's gonna be Spider-Man Homecoming 3, that I'm gonna keep calling until Spider-Man Homecoming 3 actually gets a legitimate title, and it's gonna be connected to the MCU, and that Spider-Man's gonna still be connected to the MCU in at least 1 more movie afterwards. So, maybe, and who knows, maybe in Spider-Man Homecoming 3 they'll tease Miles Morales, and maybe in Avengers 4, I actually no, we're keeping my mouth shut. That's a theory for another time. But long story short, I can kind of see them, if they're wanting to make a Spider-Verse movie. Yeah, have Miles Morales be in there. So that way, if Sony decides to not have Peter Parker be in the MCU anymore, by the time the one MCU movie comes out, like after Spider-Man Homecoming 3, then not only will they have Miles Morales be in there, having like another Spider-Man from a comics, but they're opening the doorway to making their own Spider-Verse movie. And maybe even have, like I said earlier in my previous video, have Tom Hardy to have a cameo as Eddie Brock. That way they can solidify more of a, hey, we're hinting at a Spider-Verse movie, you know. I mean, that would be a clever way, because that way, just in case if Sony does decide to say bye Felicia to the MCU with Spider-Man, they dropped the seeds with Spider-Man, with the Spider-Verse in Spider-Man Homecoming 3. And the best part is, it still technically would count as an MCU movie. But anyways, so the 25% cut, I want to kind of go into the 25% cut thing. Was, as I said earlier, I feel like the 5% cut was kind of generous, especially for with how Marvel is not going to give Sony any percentage cuts of opening weekends. I feel like giving the 5% cuts was generous of Sony. They didn't exactly have to do that, since Marvel ain't doing the same thing too. Sony could say, "Oh, we're hogging all the money for ourselves as Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home comes along, and screw you." But they didn't do that. They decided to give Marvel 5%, and then I did think it was kind of selfish of Marvel to do, to ask, "Hey, can we give 50%?" when they didn't really offer that back with any of the MCU movies that Spider-Man was in. But if they did that, and if I'm wrong about that, and if they actually did that, like them actually offering Sony, "Hey, we'll give you 50%, or at least 25%, if you gives us 50, that would be more fair than just say, "Hey, we want 50% of the cuts of opening weekend for your Spider-Man movies, but we're not going to give you any cut for our Marvel movies that you, Sony, are so gracious enough to give us Marvel to." That's just where I stand on it. But, that's just me. But at the end of the day, I am pretty excited to have Spidey back in the MCU. Spider-Man, as I said multiple times on my channel, Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel hero. And when I first heard Spider-Man was announced to be in the MCU, I was so excited, saying, "Yes, I finally get, after all my life of waiting, get to see Spider-Man teaming up with the Avengers on the big screen. And I get to tell my future descendants, hey, I was around, I saw the movies when Spider-Man interacted with the Avengers for the first time. And now I get to say, and I was around when Marvel and Sony had that big fight, and they gave a lot of fans a jump scare, nearly causing us to have heart attacks by saying, hey, Spider-Man won't be in the MCU anymore." But it turns out Spider-Man came back. I can say that to my kids, future kids. Which, if you don't think I will, I'm going to. And the best part is, well, with my, future kids, since I got a YouTube channel, they can't even look at my YouTube channel, look at this video. And, yeah. I'm so stupid. Anyways. But yeah. So what do you guys think about Spider-Man being in the MCU? Again, overall. And do you guys think it's fair that Marvel gets a 25%, or I think it's 25% cut in the Spider-Man movies, but Sony doesn't really get a cut in the Marvel movies? Since Marvel is using a Sony character that, yes, is technically a Marvel Comics character, but still. And just, what do you guys think about the Spider-Man being back in the MCU in general? Leave a comment below, and I'll see you guys soon.